Okay. So, all right. Time to sing and start our session. You still don't have your little.
Actually, I might.
I think it's really okay for you to just sometimes come and chill, you know? But you can also bring the thing. It's as you. בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ. בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום, ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים, ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. So, I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving break from ROSH-ESTHER and other things, and that you're all managed to celebrate this important American holiday with your friends and family and loved ones. For me, it was the first Thanksgiving in many, many years that I got to celebrate, and it was wonderful. And indeed, I was very grateful for this country and the freedoms and the opportunities that it gives us all. So it's great, and we're back in ROSH-ESTHER. So technical things, we have 3 more classes for this semester, including this one. So we're going to be going this week, the week after, and until the 18th of December. Same time, same place, either um, either here, either here or online if you want to be on Zoom. The other announcement is that thanks to our joint efforts, we were able to acquire, if you remember, 2 cameras for the owl because we needed 2. One of them, a very generous person donated, and the other one, we're still in the campaign, still going. And we got, I think, up to $750. And the camera, they told me in the beginning that it was $1,050. And they told me, no, this owl camera costed more because it's here, it has high, and they were $1,200. So anyways you want to look at it, we're about $450 short. So if you still haven't, it's like, oh, we want to. So if you still haven't had the chance to take this QR code, and I'll try to put it in the chat later. So, people, you can still help us pay for this camera that allows us to do this class. All right. Yeah. So, now we can continue with our, 6 people in the waiting room. That's rude. They missed the song and the important announcement about the owl camera. They'll never know. The people. Well, I'll say it in a second. Right. We'd like to continue. Oh, see, I knew it that everybody's going to want to stay in their snug homes. And who wants to join? Oh, they're joining. Very good. Okay. Well, welcome the people on Zoom. I'm going to share in the Zoom, in the chat, the link to the place where you can consider to participate in purchasing the owl camera, which makes this possible for people to join on Zoom. TemplaSinai.org, and it says form. Sorry for this, guys. We're going to get into the Kabbalah in a second, but I've been taught sometimes that the material world and the spiritual world are closely connected, and I'm kind of like trying to prove to our team that our people can make it by micro donations. So here we go. So if you want. Oh, and I misspelled. It's the T Sinai is wrong, but you can figure it out. You can fix it, right? So if you want to help with the camera, you can help. All right. So what we're doing is that we're meditating a little bit, and then we're studying the Zohar. Okay, that's what we're doing. I'm just reminding us the kind of like our setting here. We're singing a song, and then we're announcing about the owl camera. And then we are learning yet another aspect of meditation, usually around the Shema, at least for this semester, right? And then we are studying from the Zohar, and then we're talking about it a little bit. And then it's over, and then we go home, right? That's what we do. So as backtracing a little bit, right? So we already understand that the Shema, the recitation of the Shema in the Jewish tradition is an opportunity for us to meditate, to be conscious, become more conscious of our existence in the here and now, right? We've seen a number of examples of this, and we're going to learn another one today, and it's a cumulative knowledge. That's why I always want to backtrace a bit and then add a new component, right? So people sometimes, they go to the synagogue and they say Shema Israel, but they don't know what they're supposed to do, right, during that time. So in the Kabbalist tradition, the Shema, actually not just in the Kabbalist tradition, the Jewish and Kabbalist tradition, the Shema, the recitation of the Shema, in fact, with all the blessing before and after, is basically equal to mindfulness meditation, right? It's a moment where we really bring our attention to our being, to our existence, to our mind, soul, emotions, body, whatever it is. And it's like an exercise in unity of existence. And there's different techniques that have been developed over the years and throughout the generations and how to approach it. There's many, many, many techniques. We're only learning about a few of them here. Okay, there's many of them I don't know about because right, there's many, many ways to approach it and many levels to this. So the first one we learned was that that Yud Hey Vav Hey, and this actually is not just about the Shema, because we talk about God, Adonai, Jehovah, whatever. There's 70 names to God in Judaism at least. And one of the most interesting approaches to what God is right here, which is that, right? Remember, this is repeating something we've already learned, is that Yud Hey Vav Hey comes from the Hebrew verb of hoveh, havaya, to be, like estar in Spanish, to be, right? Estoy, soy, whatever, right? So, so to be is lihiyot, and havaya is a noun that means being in the moment, in the present moment. Isn't that interesting? Right? And then we learned that, a segue about that, since something I'll probably repeat in other occasions. So in the Zohar, there's a discussion, another place, another page, there's a discussion about the name of God that the high priest would pronounce in the Holy of Holies once a year in Yom Kippur. And we don't know the actual utterance of it. We don't know how the high priest would pronounce it. It's like lost. Nobody knows exactly the utterance of the name of God. It's like it was lost throughout the generations. And the book of Zohar, in a different page, asks, why was it lost? How come it was lost? And their answer is very interesting. Their answer is that it was lost because it was never uttered. Because the actual essence of the name of God is utter silence. It's not even utter silence. It can't be uttered. See? So like, it's not that it was lost. It was lost because it was never lost, because it never was. See? It's an interesting answer, right? So there are many other names and pronunciations, and there's many esoteric, right? So something to think about, that the simplicity, so Kabbalah can be very intricate and complicated with everything that we're learning about the rose and this and that and the tree of life and the Sefirot, which we haven't even talked about yet, which we will maybe next semester or whatever, right? But in the end, the essence of the thing is extremely simple. Just being connected to the here and now without any more complications. Just whatever is becoming in each and every moment, that is God. Right? The rest is commentary. The rest is just ways to get there. But so just something to think about. And then, right, so God is not a grandpa in the sky, for example. Maybe it also is. I don't know. I've been flying all over, to place. I haven't seen it yet, but right, when I look out the window and look, it's not there. But right, so that's one way to think about what is God. What is Yud Hey Vav Hey? Okay. So then there's the element of the letters of the tetragram representing existing in the moment, right? Repeating. The Vav is our body. The letter Vav, it looks like a body, right? And Hey is breath, right? And Yud, the little point, is a point of consciousness. What is our mind focusing on in that very moment as we breathe in our body? That's all. Very simple explanation to what we are, always. We're always thinking about something. We're always breathing. We have a body. When we don't, we die, right? Yeah. So then we learned about that too. Remember? Echad acher. So the word echad, oneness, unity, right? One, not just in the technical that it's a number, in the essence of one, unity. We're all one. We're all united. Harmony, peace, and love. Right, and then what comes to mind? Acher. It looks very similar, right? That's that little connector one. That right. So, and there's more to learn about that on some other time. It can be elaborated upon. But obviously, when I try to feel peace, love, and harmony, what's going to come to mind? The mosquito in the room, right, or the elephant in the room. Whatever is not in harmony with me, which can be my own self. or other part of me, or something which is external to me will come to bother me. And that's actually the work, right? Because, oh, how can that person be one in me? They voted to another party, or they think differently than me about, I don't know what, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or I don't know, something much lighter than that. They just annoy me because they're passing me rudely on the highway, right? The freeway. So again, you're right. What comes to mind is what somehow it is connected to me. Somehow that mosquito and me are one, even though that mosquito is annoying, right? There's work to do with that thing. And that's what we're going to. Okay, so then we learned about that also, the David Goliath metaphor. Remember that when we take exactly, Esther Brill is always demonstrating, right, in the embodied, right, that when we do the Shema, I don't know if you ever seen this, right? So sometimes people cover their forehead and their eyes with their hand. And we learned about the David and Goliath metaphor, that we are both David and Goliath, right? So in each and every one of us, there is a big giant that is kind of like more our less embellished ego part, right? That is like, and in each and every one of us, there's a David. And once a day, we unite the two of them. We take 5 pebbles, like David took 5 pebbles from the river, from the stream. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai. The 5 words represent the 5 pebbles, right? Like, by the way, like the five sturdy leaves of the rose, which is also right. And basically you hit yourself in the forehead. David hits Goliath, right? We meet our less embellished parts with our slightly more refined higher self that's saying, you know what, Goliath, calm down. I'm going to meet you again this evening, right? There's always David and Goliath, but right now I'm going to, right? So with love, killing him softly, never do it too hard. All right, it's like there has to be a balance between David and Goliath, right? And that's the thing about Kabbalah. Often in Kabbalah, everything is a symbol of us, right? So like in the biblical stories, we would be all the characters, or right. So that's also a key to go into the depth of things. There's the aspects of all the different aspects. It's all internal. It's all within us, in a sense. Right, and then we also learned about the Sephardi. Remember the Sephardi? And then we said, how many Sephardis are in the room? And only Leah is like half Sephardi, and somebody else whose son-in-law is Sephardi, which that would be you, which would make you like our honorary Sephardi, right? All right, so and Leah, so right, so then that they would say it very slowly. Each word of the Shema gets its own breath. Shema Yisrael. Remember? And then when you get to Echad, you fill your lung with air, so it goes Echad until you're out of breath, and then you're filled with more energy. Right? So that's kind of like a practical way to incorporate all these meditations together, or whichever one you want. You see, so what you're building is like a bank of techniques. And you can use all of them, or one of them, or a couple of them, or none of them, or invent your own. Just like those were once developed, right? As long as we keep the Shema as this moment of consciousness, all these things are just tools that are meant to guide us towards something which is silence. Right? How can someone teach something that's in essence in words, something that in essence is silence, right? So, and of course, as I say, don't try this at home. Here I would say, do try this at home. If you get a chance, you sit in your home, right? Traditionally do it in the morning and in the evening, and you say the Shema, but it's not and you can experiment with all those techniques and see what works for you, and maybe one of them works more in a different, time in your life, or whatever it is that is applicable for that moment, right? So, okay, the next aspect of it is actually this. So this is okay, and now this was all a repetition. Now we're new material, right, for the meditation part. So if you go to any Torah in the world, including the one that we have, or to any mezuzah in the world, or to any tefillin in the world, right? You will go inside and you'll find the Shema, in case you didn't know. It's a roundabout thing. The Shema tells you to put a mezuzah. So it's in the mezuzah, right? Like, what's the secret? The secret is that it's like, again, you see that also in the Kabbalistic text. It's the ritual and the text are, it's like the ritual and the text are like mind and body. Mind, see what I mean? Or mind, the soul and the body. Connected, interconnected. So if you go to any of those texts where you have a sofer stam, someone wrote the Torah or the mezuzah, the scroll, you will see that the letter Ayin and the letter Daled of the Shema are augmented. Even in our prayer book, they did that, but they kind of not enough, in my opinion. The fonts are too close, so you lose that secret. Okay, so Shema, the Ayin, I'll tell you can also practice saying Ayin for like, I'll give you like a few years to practice, right? Just to pronounce the Ayin, Shema. It's very good to hear. Allah, okay? Practice it at home. Like I practice my R's at home, so I sound more American, right? So R is here and Ayin is actually not that far, by the way. Like if you want to achieve the Ayin, just do the R, but a little deeper in the throat, and you'll get there. Explore this at home. And then call 911 if you start the, so but then or the rabbi, right? So so the word the letter Ayin, the third one in the Shema, and the last one, the Daled of the Echad, are augmented. And for years people were asking, why is that? For thousands of years the Torah is copied in great preciseness, right? And the Ayin and the Daled are large. So what's the secret? So it's been suggested in the Kabbalistic tradition that the combination of Ayin and Daled produce the following three words. Ed, which means witness. Da, which means to know. And Ad, which means eternal. If you switch the letters, right? So Da is actually switching. But for the Kabbalists, that's never a problem. Like, if you can, like really, seriously, for the Kabbalists, you can switch the letters, you can mix the letters, you can, whatever. If you find meaning, it's there. And it's not a science. It's, again, treat it like poetry, like art, not like mathematics. It's just, all right? So three things. Witness, Ed, Da, know, to know, and Ad, which means eternal. This also, they coincide with some of the Sefirot, but we're not going to get into that now because we haven't talked about that yet, but that's for later. But what you have to know right now is that these three components are actually another invitation to look deeper at what is Jewish meditation or meditation in general. Because what is, let's start from the last one. What is the eternal? Something that's always there. What has always been there and always is and always will be there? And what is God, right? But okay, so possibly that's so again, maybe that thing that the high priest never uttered, because it's like if the moment we define it in the word, it's not eternal anymore, right? A word is already something that is finite. So the infinite, divine, something that, again, Haya Hoveh V'Yihiyeh, was always there, always is, and always will be, ever present, omnipresent, whatever. That's the eternal. Our mind, can our mind grasp the eternal? Our limited mind, right? So the Kabbalah said, actually, yes, it can. Why? Because we are of it. And because we are of it, there we actually, it's actually easier than one thinks. It's just, it's always here. We just forget. Okay, so in some ways, that is meditation, right? It's kind of like coming back and escaping, coming back and escape and running away from that very thing that we're just trying to describe. And that's what is da, to know. Can we know the eternal? Can we know the eternal in our mind? Well, yes and no, because our mind is of it, and we are of it, so we can. But then the thing about our knowledge, our brain, right, our thoughts, is that there's always some kind of thing that it's occupied with, and it's always moving, right? So we practice to know the eternal, and part of how we do it is with witnessing, right? Witnessing and knowing. It's kind of like, yin and yang, like passive and active aspects of our, so when we meditate, one way to think about it is the Holy Trinity, not of, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It's almost Christmas, right? So we have to give some acknowledgement to that as well. But to the Holy Trinity of witnessing and knowing the eternal. Yes.
Does that have anything to do with listening?
Absolutely. Shema.
Yeah.
Right? Shema begins with Shema, listen, ends with Echad. Right? So we listen for unity, for oneness. A lot of stuff shows up, and that's the practice. That's the daily exercise. That's what we do in Judaism. We exercise that twice a day, all the time. Right? Again, the Shema, again, the prayer of the Shema, in a second, the prayer of the Shema, so we should also meditate it, but the prayer of the Shema, again, it's found exactly at the places of, what's the name? When you're in an in-between place, there's a word. Limbo. Or there's also another word. Liminal, right? In liminal spaces, or limbo, right? In liminal spaces, like, so why is the mezuzah represents liminal space? The doorstep is between, I don't know if we mentioned that. If we have, I apologize, right? But it's worth mentioning. It's at the mezuzah because the mezuzah is between my home and the world. It's a liminal space. Unity between my private life and my outside life, which is a huge challenge, huge challenge, probably for all of us. We don't always talk about it, but, right? Or a huge thing. My inner world, my intimate life, my family, my relationships, and then how I'm out there in the world. Woo. That's what the mezuzah is there to remind us. It's all one. It is and it isn't. That's the work, right? Why is it on the tefillin? So where do we put our tefillin? Around our body. So it's also like a mezuzah, right? It's like we and the rest of the world. This home. We also say the Shema ideally when we die. We say Shema Yisrael in the Vidui, right? That's also liminal.
Yeah.
Right? See what I mean? So and there's other example in the day and the night, in the morning and in the evening. It's when between being awake and being asleep. Big change every day. Very different experience. Says being awake and being asleep. I don't know if you noticed. Right? At least for me. I don't know about you guys. That's why we always say the Shema, the unity, the oneness, at the liminal passageways between the different stages. How did we get to that? Because you ask about listening, right? Yes. So the answer is yes. You're getting it, right? Any more questions before we meditate? Yeah, go ahead.
The word ad, is that like ad olam?
Yes.
I always thought it made, so the ad part means eternal world or forever?
No, ad means, it also means until.
Until, right.
But ad also means la'ad, forever. La'ad.
I got it. Thank you.
La'ad, forever. Eternity.
Okay, so question, witness in English can mean both an active and a passive word. So,
I love it.
I
Oops.
see it, I witness it, or so actively, or. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And a witness can be, it comes to me, I see it. Or witness can also be, I testify. I
Right. So I think that,
witnessed
So I think in
So
Hebrew,
Hebrew.
so in Hebrew it's also both,
Okay.
because an ed in the court of law, it's also an ed who testifies, but that person testifies because they were witnesses to something,
Okay.
right? So initially it's like if I'm a witness, I'm witnessing the knowledge. In other words, but I could also testify the knowledge, maybe, and maybe everything. Speaking of the rose and the tree, and we're going to get to that later, maybe is that everything in Kabbalah is both active and passive. If you want yin and yang, if you want male and female, I don't even know who's more passive and active, the male or the female, actually, right? You shouldn't, right? But these things are always very fluid, and you can really, and the answer is yes.
Okay.
Right? It's like Zen, but that's where we are. We're in the world of opposites that are merging into oneness. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. You talked before about how there's so many various names or words for God,
Mm-hmm.
but do you have a quick explanation of why Adonai is sometimes spelled Yud Yud?
Yes. So it's actually not Yud Yud. It's a typo. So in the olden days, before print came into the world, there were many abbreviations. And see, one of the problems with talking about God, mentioning God, writing about God is that you can't write. Look, how do you write the name of God? So one abbreviation for the tetragram, Yud Hey Vav Hey, was to make 4 dots on the page, alluding to the tetragram, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then as manuscripts were copied and then print came into the world, people have mistaken these 2 dots and 2 dots to Yud Yud. And that's how the Yud Yud came into being. So, so the tetragram is actually, so it's actually just another way to, it's like a graphic way to, yeah. Not a lot of people know that, but that's how it is. I learned that in university one time. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that you can't have more meanings about what is Yud Yud and, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So whenever you see the Shema written, it's always Adonai spelled like that.
That's how it is in the Bible, with Yud Hey Vav Hey. If you go, don't believe me, go to the Torah at the sanctuary. That's how it is. I know, because the number of the letters here are also important, and everything is important in the Shema. Every letter, everything. Maybe we'll get to that. If not this semester, then in the next. There's lots more to learn about this. But yes, okay, Esther. Oh, did you speak already? Right. Okay. I can't remember all those things. It's just happened before. So okay. So sorry. So yeah. Anyone?
Just wondering, there's Judaism and then there's Kabbalah, and then there must be lots of overlap, but are they ever going to, it just seems like.
Kabbalah is Judaism, and Judaism and Kabbalah, they're one and the same. Only that not all Judaism. You see, Kabbalah is like Buddhist philosophy is to Buddhism. Okay, Kabbalah is the spiritual path of the Jewish tradition.
It just seems like we don't practice it.
Why do you say that?
Practice it, but we don't know it.
Well, now you do. It's about time someone told you, right? Because, it doesn't mean, you see, it doesn't mean just like, again, if I'm a Jew and I want to go to a Buddhist ashram or a yoga place, and it doesn't mean that I have to become Hindu to study yoga, right? I can try to reach my toes, and maybe I'll succeed, maybe I won't reach my toes, right? But I can, in other words, I can gain from spiritual traditions that was developed for thousands of years in India without being a Hindu, right? So people can learn Kabbalah and Jewish spirituality and maybe gain something from it. Yeah, even they don't have to be Jewish. What does it even mean to be Jewish? I don't know, right? But they don't have to necessarily be Jewish or identify as Jewish to study Kabbalah. It's something. It's actually something that we have to give to the world.
So it's more like a philosophy.
It's a philosophy. It's a spiritual path. It's a practice. Because because it's not necessarily just cerebral. Philosophy would assume that it's like it has philosophical aspects, but as you can see, it also has a lot of practical things that people do. So it's a ritual. Actually within Kabbalah there's so many different subcategories of what, right? Because some people, for them, it's more of a philosophy. For some, it's more of a spiritual practice. For some, it's more of a healing practice. For some, it's more of a magic and abracadabra practice. There's a lot of subcategories for Kabbalah, all right? But it is the Jewish, and people say we don't practice it, but my claim to fame is that yes, we do. That's what we do. We come here to temple and people say things that they don't understand necessarily, or that they understand at a certain level that they were taught in Hebrew school when they were 11. No disrespect. Actually, that's a lot, because actually those are thank God that you're giving. I'm talking to the teacher of the school. You're building that level so that when people grow up, they have the foundation on which all this can be built. It's like layers of culture. So that's actually very important to build those levels at 7th grade, 4th grade, whatever, so that eventually, but that's not where it ends, right? For many of us, Jewish education kind of stopped after our confirmation or bat mitzvah, right? Or maybe not. I'm not to say, right? But Kabbalah is actually there. Why do we sing Lecha Dodi? Why do we stand and enter and bow to the door? And why do we do the Havdalah? I can give you countless examples. Why do we get so excited when the Shema comes? Why do we say Avot, Gvorot, and Imahot? All those things have deeper explanations and practices and things to know, that they're all gates to some kind of practice. So we actually do practice it. We just sometimes, it's like we have like so many Reformed temples are called Temple Emmanuel, and I always say that it's because in Reformed Judaism we don't have a manual. And then actually it's like we have like that thing, but we don't have the manual how to operate it, right? But a lot of, not all of it, by the way, you can be a Jew and not believe in Kabbalah at all. Judaism is big and wide. There's other, and I grew up in a Jewish home, Orthodox, that never spoke one word of Kabbalah. Wasn't there, right? So it's not like, but actually a lot more than you'd think is Kabbalistic. Usually when you get to some Jewish thing and you don't know the reason why it is, the answer is somewhere in Kabbalah. Somebody forgot all along. They kept the ritual, but they forgot the why. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, as a youngster, I grew up learning, gotta say the Shema. I used to say it every night. So I was connected to God, but I didn't even know it. So a lot of times we have these rituals, and by saying the Shema, we're automatically connected. So it's easier just to do it and not know why you're doing it, but you still get that connection.
Right. So you can call it, if you want, you can call it Jewish spirituality. You don't have to call it Kabbalah. Right? You can call it Kabbalah, or you can not call it at all. But we should know that our tradition, Judaism, is actually very, very rich and deep in those kind of practices and suggestions and knowledge and philosophy and rituals, and it just helps to know, I think, that this is all in-house. We have it. We just have to kind of like remember that. Yeah? Okay? Should we do it a little bit? Should we practice a little bit? But it's fine. I mean, sometimes it happens that people ask questions in the beginning of the class, and that's okay. So now we're going to add this component of witnessing, knowing the eternal, or at least trying to, right? In our Shema meditation, which is taking most of our class today. That's fine. It's fine. There's no rush, right? It's not like there's a test at the end with, it's like a driving test. At the end, you're going to get a certificate, Kabbalist level 1, right? And then you can, right? So I'm certified. Right. Okay. So let us now. Exactly. Like I hear those scratches in the chairs. I'm saying that's good. Right. So let us now just become conscious of the way that we're sitting in our chair. Why is this happening? Did that mean that we got disconnected from the Zoom? You see, something is very, very, very spiritual today. We try to, I wonder if the people on Zoom are still on Zoom, or if they think that we're so spiritual.
Run.
You're on? God bless you. But I can't get into the computer. Wait a second. It's like just when you, but that means that we're on the right path, because I noticed when I've been teaching Kabbalah throughout the years, every time you're like supposed to move to the next level, there's some technical difficulties. It's true. Once I was teaching Kabbalah in a synagogue in Tel Aviv. I think it was also every, I don't know if Sunday or Wednesday night. For years, I did it there, a little synagogue in Tel Aviv. And it was a conservative synagogue. God forgive me for. And every time we'd get excited about the classroom, the phone would ring. Like every time we're like, oh, there's a secret that's being revealed, the phone would ring. And we never answered the phone because we were afraid that that was like the Messiah or something. And then, like, no, we can't deal with that. So, there's always technical difficulties. So the Zoom people are still, that's good. So back to our bodies. So if you're in Zoom, then maybe you're not on a chair, maybe you're in the sofa or somewhere, but wherever we are, let's make sure that we are taking notice of the shape and the volume and the space that our body takes in the world. So let's be conscious of our four limbs and how they're resting. And let's be conscious of our torso, that hopefully is as straight as it can be in this very moment. Let's be conscious of our connection to the ground, to Mother Earth, and to the great heavens that are above our crown, the crowns of our heads. Absolutely. If we need to cough or sneeze to release, it's very good. It's very welcome. Very natural. And let's become conscious of our breath. So there's the hey and the hey. We're breathing always. Inhaling and exhaling. Can we hear our heartbeat? And the yud, our point of consciousness. What is it focusing on? Quite possibly thoughts and feelings of this day that has passed, or this week that's been passing, etc., are filling our mind, eye. And that's perfectly normal. And we can always point our point of consciousness back to the here, to the now, to our body, to our breath, and to being, Havaya. And today in our meditation, we're meditating on Ed, Da, and Ad. to witness, to know the eternal. So if you were to take a magnifying glass and focus on that yud, this point of consciousness that is always occupied with something, we would see that these three elements, these three components are in there. Why? Because every moment we're conscious, we witness something that we know, and in that meeting point between what we know and the one that knows it, Kabbalah teaches us that is where we can find the eternal. Now I'll invite us to say the Shema together. If you want, you can put your hand on your forehead, but you don't have to. And we're going to say it very slowly, with each word receiving its own unique breath. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And very gently out of this silence, I'll invite us to say the blessing for the study of Torah. May our meeting here this evening together be for the benefit and for the enlightenment and for the consolation of every and any soul in this world that is in need of that this evening, whether it's ourselves or a loved one or someone that we don't even know at all. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok v'divrei Torah. And we can kind of slowly come out of our intimate personal spaces and remember that we are in the room with other people as well. So with the short time that we still have today, which is really okay because we're really not in a rush. I'm always inspired by the circle of Torah studiers in the mornings of Saturday morning who study about a verse and a half a week on a good week. It's okay. We're not in a rush, right? It's good. If we wanted to spend more time on the Shema and the meditation and the questions, it's really fine. Right. So when we study the book of Zohar in the short time that we have now, we'll continue next week. It's no problem. Right. We are studying Torah, but it's really also a meditation. We kind of try to study it not just with our brain, but with our being. Right. So the book of Zohar, which, would look like this, and it would be a bunch of, for most of us, jibber jabber or chitter chatter in Aramaic. Right, is actually, as we know, again, I'm repeating what you already know if you've been here. It's an interpretation of the Torah, starting from Bereshit, which is why the first page, which is right this one, right, is starting from the first word, Bereshit, and is looking at the first verse, right? So we're interpreting Torah. For the Kabbalist, when we interpret Torah, it's like a mirroring of us interpreting our existence in this world and our lives. The Torah is what the Torah, according to Midrash, it's not even Kabbalah, had existed for 2,000 years, which means forever, before the world was even created, and God was playing with the words of the Torah. And as God was doing that, when God decided to create the world, God looked at the Torah and created the world. If it reminds you of the Platonic idea of ideas and the cave, it's not too far away derived from that, right? So because of that, Torah and the world are mirrors of one another, which means two things. One is that the world is not what we think it is, but also the Torah is not what we think it is. So Torah is not just the literal meaning of the words. It's a presence, it's an energy, it's revelation, right? And therefore, when we study Torah and we go deeper into what Torah is, we can learn more things about this world and about our lives. And vice versa, by the way. So as we mature and are older and have more experience in life, we can understand Torah in a way that we can't when we're 11 or 13. Which is why they say don't study Kabbalah before you're 40, which is really not a rule. It's just a direction. Like you have to bring your life experience into this. If you're 23 and you're in it, it's fine. If you're here in the room and you're 27, it's fine. It means that you're ready because you're here, whatever, right? So, okay, so then we have the Zohar text, which sends us to the biblical text. But it invites us to look at it differently, to look at it as a revelation. There's another midrash that says that the Torah is black fire written over white fire. That when you look at the scroll and you see the it's not white, like the bright background and the white and the black letters, and here it's the opposite, but it doesn't matter. It's black fire over white fire. What does that mean? That the spaces between the letters are as important as the letters themselves. Very deep. That's yin and yang. That meaning and no meaning, that sound and silence are equally important. That the Torah is not just the literal meaning. Oh my God, all these Baptist evangelical people, God bless them. They're great people. I want to learn how they do their mega churches, like how they get thousands of thousands. Really, I want to learn it. But sometimes they're so very literal and they're busy about the literal meaning of the text so much. I love it. But it's also not how Jews typically, right? It's like we're like the opposite. Doesn't mean that they're not good people. They probably are, but okay. But you see what I mean? It's like we're so different. For us, the Torah is also the literal meaning. By the way, it also has like a noun and a verb and an adjective and an adverb, and it's a literal meaning. But that's not even the main part of it. Torah is black fire over white fire. The letters of the Torah are like molecules and DNA and atoms and of meaning and language that we can play with and create new things all the time. It's white fire over black fire. Now let's try to take that into our lives. The Kabbalists would say our lives are also that. The literal meaning of our life, the story that we usually tell about ourselves. I was born in this place and that place. And then I went to school here, and then I went to college, and then this happened and that happened, and now I'm here, and I'm 27 or I'm 87 or whatever. Right? That's the story we tell, but that's just the surface, right? Who's a psychologist in the room? You'll probably agree with me, right? Is there anyone here in the room who's not a psychologist? I'm the only one, right? And I don't have a degree in psychology. It's like I don't belong here, right? So, or therapy of some sort, right? So you guys know that too. You talk to people, right? There are levels and levels and levels and layers upon scientists in the room. You'd probably agree from another angle, right? That the world we think this is a wall, but a scientist no, this is just a bunch of molecules and atoms. We think it's a wall. Oh, you think this is the below? It's actually not. There's like galaxies and galaxies under our feet. Right? We think, oh, you think this is time when time is stretchy, again, you see what I mean? Actually anyone who knows anything about anything to some depth knows that there's the literal surface of meaning of life and there are levels upon level. That's what the Kabbalists are telling us. Torah is white fire over black fire. You can play with a white fire, we can play with a black fire. You can play with both of them, and then actually it becomes colorful. Okay, it's actually colorful. Right? So then that allows you to look into Bereshit. We're backtracing. But from another level. It allows you to backtrace. Sorry, not to backtrace. It allows you to play with the words of Torah like they were Play-Doh, like they were... Right? And then you look, where people see a verse, Bereshit, bara Elohim, et hashamayim ve'et, the Kabbalists say, we see a beautiful rose opening up. The Torah tells us of a beautiful rose that opens, because then the letters, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, the 13, the 5, but basically, oh my God, the letters start to move, and we see it. Where you see a literal superficial text, which is also not superficial, right? But we see a beautiful rose that opens in the universe between humans and the Creator, between the world and God, between everything and everything. And then they start to learn about the rose, right? That's the rose. Somebody drew it. Remember? That's the drawing that I found in Roswell, Georgia. That has nothing to do with rose. The rose well there. I thought the well has nothing to do with it. It's Roswell. Some guy who was named General Roswell. Somebody Roswell. But maybe, hey, who knows? Kabbalah, right? I went all the way to Roswell, Georgia to find this. So there you go. And then I found it in some other places as well, but that's where I'd originally found it. Right? So that rose, that's red and white. Remember, compassion and judgment. The right side and the left side. And we learned that, oh my God, and then we start to go deeper into the rose. Remember, it's been a few weeks now, but let's repeat, right? We learned that actually Kabbalah and Judaism is very much linked with other world traditions, sister religions like Christianity, right? And Islam, Sufi Islam. And the inside, they teach similar things about the rose. When the whirling dervishes, I once took a class in a world like whirling dervishes 101. I did. I didn't get very good at it, it was just 101. But I have rotated for like 45 minutes to an hour. Not easy, but it's actually becomes very easy when you get the grip of it almost. That's actually that motion is the opening rose that is constantly opening towards the heavens and goes deeper inside at the same time. See? That's the rose. It's all in the Shema, right? It's all. So we learned that Judaism has connections to other. Oh my God! All of a sudden, the deeper we go into our tradition, the closer we get to our neighbors' traditions. Maybe they don't even know the secrets of their religion either, but it's there. It's there, right? So then we go back into our religion and we realize that our rituals are immersed in that thing, and we can put new meaning into our own rituals, such as the Havdalah or the Kiddush. That's the rose, right? As very important when we go into Kabbalah. There's a text, there's a body of knowledge that we're learning like the Zohar. Usually there will be a ritual that complements it. So it never just should remain a theoretical knowledge. Judaism is very ritualistic. We don't have a dogma. If you are a Reformed Jew, you must believe in this and that and this and that. Some people here think that we do, but we don't. We don't. We might have shared values, and they even evolve with time. Okay, but you don't have to sign the dotted line when you enter the like I believe that this. No. Jewish people do things. We do rituals together, and then we give the meaning. And 5 Jews will tell you 17 different reasons for the same ritual. Right? But then the Kabbalistic so the holding the cup in our, remember? With our 5 fingers, and the cup of either red or white wine is the rose. So our body becomes the rose. And we offer that cup to the heaven. Remember, we're doing a reenactment of the creation that they have before light is created. We send light into the week to come on Saturday, the end of Saturday. That's Havdalah. And we do it, remember, with our senses. All our senses are in the Havdalah ritual, because Judaism shouldn't just be cerebral. It should be with all who that we are, all our faculties. Right, and then we got to the rated R class 2 weeks ago, right? When we learned that actually this whole thing has very erotic, there's a whole level of Kabbalah, this tradition that has to do with masculine and feminine traditions and how they interplay in the world. And it doesn't matter if we are physically a man or a woman, or if we are a they, or if we are attracted to someone who's of our own biological gender. And it's not, because according to Kabbalah, everybody has feminine and masculine, and everything has feminine and masculine qualities that are always interplaying with one another. Some people are more identified with this or with that, but everybody is also everything, to a degree at least, right? So the rose, all of a sudden, that's what we learned 2 weeks ago. We understand that the rose, in fact, is a vaginal symbol. And it shouldn't be a surprise to us, because the first thing that Rabbi Chizkiah said is Genesis, the Song of Songs. Remember, the rose amongst the lily, the rose amongst the lilies, but the rose amongst the thorns, all of a sudden gets a very, kind of physical explanation, interpretation. Right, so then the motion of the rose that is eternally opening, and the tree that unites with it from within, really becomes yin and yang. masculine and feminine unity. That's a very important element in Jewish mysticism and in Kabbalah, and also in the world, right? This is how we all came into the world, into being, is because these two energies, masculine and feminine, united at some point and created us, right? That is the mojo of life, right? Is that, so that energy of eros, of sexuality, but also of unity, it's not just physical, right, is a very important component in all esoteric traditions, anywhere you look, from India to, Islam and Christianity, whatever, wherever you look, you'll find that, right? Different names in Judaism as well. Right? Very important element of Kabbalah. Every page of the Zohar, even if in the beginning you think that it's not, you'll find it. And the psychologists will probably agree that also, according to some leading central psychological traditions, I know very little of them, but like Freud and others, right? Sexuality, masculinity, femininity is very, very key elements in human identity, right? And there's many theories about that, and you can probably tell me more about that than I know, right? So it kind of makes sense, right? So that's the last thing we kind of read, is right. And I don't know if you remember last 2 weeks ago we read that the rose opens and the tree comes into it, right? And this is a Celtic tree of life. And I found it also has like it almost looks like a red flower in it, right? So the tree that enters the rose, right? They take two symbols from the garden, and one becomes masculine, the other feminine, and that is the unity that they're talking about, right? We're going to get to all those things. Okay, so I probably don't have time, seeing that there's only 7 minutes left. 7 is a holy number in Kabbalah. Before we continue to new material next time, sorry, we didn't get to read another line in the Zohar. Any questions? Or is it too shocking to you to even ask questions? Or are you just lost? Yeah.
I don't think it'll be relevant to anybody else, but I remember being in Hebrew school and being so interested in Kabbalah, and they were very hush-hush. It was so taboo, and we couldn't talk about it and can't even think about it until a certain age. But I was just wondering if I'm remembering it correctly. Was there a time that women weren't allowed to practice?
Yeah, so this has been asked before, but I'll repeat it because it's so you see, so the thing about the hush hush is that not everybody is allowed to study it. And I'll repeat, but because it's important repeating. So if you've already heard me say it, forgive me, but you've asked, so I'll say. So, women weren't allowed to study a lot of things and do a lot of things in Judaism, and now they are. Not everywhere, by the way, but here. In some places around the corner, you'll go and they'll still won't let you sit in the room and study Kabbalah and many other things. They won't count you for a minion, or just because, right? So, etc. They won't let you be a rabbi. They won't let you whatever, right? So we've evolved. But in reality, women also have always studied Kabbalah. We know it. I said this because we know Kabbalists used to copy manuscripts and then add their own notes, and that's why it becomes so convoluted. There's like 1,000 different versions of the same text because everybody added their, and then went somewhere else, and someone else added another footnote, etc. And then the Kabbalists who would do that would often write their name at the edge of the manuscript, and some of those names are names of women.
That's great. I didn't know.
So this is all like academic facts. There's like, you can look, like that's like, there's like articles about that, right? And like academic, not inventing that. Maybe the academics are inventing it, but but as far as I know, it's scientific truth, whatever, right? Is that so? Not a lot, yes, mostly men, but also women, right? So it's traditionally you'd think this was only men. It wasn't, right? It was men and also some women. And so then also about that, another thing about why you can't study it. So some of it is from the marketing department. Like, don't touch this. You can't. You're like how the never ending story begins. This book is not for you, kid. Get out of here. Right. So you want to. So he steals the book and reads it, and then he goes into the book. That's very Kabbalistic, by the way. I'm pretty sure that it's like, it sounds like he knew about that, right? Right. So that's kind of like a lot of it's like, oh, Kabbalah, no, it's not for you. So you're gonna want to, right? So I said Zohar, like my last name, means two things: radiance, light, and careful. Zhirut in Hebrew, like be careful, handle with care. The two components are there. You wanna learn about divine radiance, but you gotta handle it with care, because it can also consume you like the fire consumes. Don't worry, it's fine. Like, it's great to be consumed, but also, all right. So that's actually a great tip for life. For anything that we like, do it, but be conscious. Ed, right? So, and then traditionally also another reason for why you don't teach it is because that is power, right? And so people who have the keys to the tradition, if you know the secrets of the tradition, you have the power, you can be in control, whereas maybe some rabbis or some establishment wanted to keep the good stuff for themselves because they were men, because also because this is extremely radical stuff, right? So he talks about eroticism and sexuality, and that the whole world is very fluid, and that we have the control over our lives, or actually also that we completely don't have control over our lives simultaneously, right? And that tradition is actually not the literal sense. So what about now all the laws and Jewish orthodoxy and the can and cannot, and you can eat only that animal, and you can not drive on Shabbat? And hey, if that's just only the superficial level of the tradition, what about rabbinic authority and the law? And so you can't. Oh, don't let them know the truth. Right? Seriously, it's not for everyone. And actually, it's not for everyone. This kind of stuff isn't for everyone. Right? If you've endured to class 5, it's probably not in a judgmental way. Maybe it's better to be somewhere else. I'm not saying, really, honestly, there's so many things in Rochester and in the world. See what I mean? I'm not saying that this is better than anything else or true. I'm just saying that this kind of knowledge and learning is for some people, and it's not for everyone. And it can also confuse some people. What are you saying? That the Torah and the world are not what we thought it was? That's too confusing for me. Can't stand it. I'm going to go home. That's fine. Okay, but then if you've been coming back here, it's probably because that makes sense to me in some way. I want to know more about it, and that's basically, I'm saying, the most non-judgmental way. It's not for everyone. Maybe some people would rather do yoga or take psychiatric drugs, or I don't know what. There's so many different paths to the divine. Okay, psychedelic, not psychiatric. Sorry. Also psychiatric. I meant psychedelic. Okay, but only the legal stuff, guys. Only the legal stuff. You can't do the illegal stuff because it's illegal, and we want to abide by the law as lawful Americans. Okay, so right? Law abiding. I mean, all right. So we kind of got to wrap it up.
That ship has sailed.
Well, I was born in the wrong decade. What can I tell you? I was too late on many trains. I usually arrive when the party is over. Like I wanted to move to America for political stability, right? I'm always like 5 minutes too late to every good party in town, right? Always come too late. The 60s and 70s and over. We don't do that stuff anymore, right? So anyway, so what's that?
You met Fred, so you're okay.
Oh, all right. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. And he does our music at Temple. You should come. You can hear it in the solos. All right. So that explains a lot, Fred. Anyway, right. So, okay. So we got to wrap it up. But just to say that, And again, we didn't read new Zohar today, but that's fine. Next week we'll try to compensate. Maybe we'll succeed, because we still have to learn about the end of our paragraph, which is about the name of 42 letters. But then, if you want to, so just to say that, so we have 2 more classes. Shall continue, God willing, and that's like the marketing department for next week's class. If you want to know what this is all about, come next week, and maybe we'll get to it. Can't promise. Depending on how many questions you ask at the beginning. So practice at home the meditation if you want. If you don't, it's also fine. That's your homework. If you haven't yet considered to fund our owl camera, Mary Mansfield, our executive director, went on vacation, and by the time she backs, I want to prove to her that we can do it. All right, because she bought the cameras, if you don't have the link, you can just call the Zoom people. You can also call the office tomorrow and just ask, how do I donate to the camera? We're about $450 short of our goal. We're almost there, right? And otherwise, God bless you. Have a nice trip home. Be careful, it's icy and snowy, but you know more about that than me, so you'll be fine. And take care. Have a good evening.
Did you put your snow brush into your car?
Yeah, well, my wife did.
Okay, good.
In both our cars.
This is a small world.
Thank you.
I want to just disconnect the Zoom people. Otherwise, they're good. Thank you, Zoom people. We love you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Love you.
Now let's just end this.
Oh.